Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you got some more prepper tips from movies. Oh, man. You know, it's just that there's such a huge difference between Hollywood and reality. I mean, it's completely night and day. If you were to let Hollywood teach you about preparedness, the number one most important thing you would think would be your self-defense items, your firearms. If you were to let the medical community approach it, the first thing they would tell you to do is make damn sure you had clean drinking water and had ways to maintain proper hygiene. Most important. But you don't see that in the movies and on the TV shows. I mean, you do, but just not directly, right? You see that their hair was washed with Pantene, right? With only the finest conditioners. You might see that, as far as how the people look, but, they don't actually show them and how they're getting their shampoo and conditioner and all of that stuff. So even that, is so far from the reality, it's unreal. I don't remember seeing a bunch of people on The Walking Dead with matted up hair or anything like that. I didn't see the mass amounts of tooth decay, because that's a thing. You don't see any of this stuff in Hollywood. And they're all very important factors, I would think. No, the majority of your time isn't going to be spent in a firefight. Sorry to disappoint you. Although, it's not much of a disappointment. See, the people that are excited for that are the people that's never been in it. So, anybody that's ever really been in the thick of things, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, but it's definitely not something to be taken lightly, and not anything that someone that has been there, done that, they really don't want to do it. And the small handful of folks that do get a rise out of doing it are very sick individuals. And they're really, let's be honest, there's not that many of them. But there's a lot of just completely wrong out there things when it comes to Hollywood and their depiction of an SHTF. There really is not a lot of good examples. I could even talk about my personal favorite TV show on the topic, and that would be Jericho. And while they did a very good job, I think, on Jericho, they still missed the mark, like they didn't even hit the dartboard. So, there's that. There are so many unrealistic things about Jericho that people just don't understand. Those nuclear blasts, yeah, they would have had to have did a graft on the soil. Of course, that means removing the topsoil where all your nutrients are, and then you have to, you have to get nutrients in your soil that you now have on top, so that you can actually grow something. They didn't go through all of that on Jericho. So just that one aspect alone on Jericho was big. Let me tell you about something else that was big on Jericho. Huge, huge. Probably something that a lot of people may not have really paid close attention to, but it was absolutely huge. And that was, they were by a salt mine. That's massively important. Having access to salt is a very important thing. So, even on the better attempts at making a post-apocalyptic TV show or movie, they're still going to miss the mark by a rather large margin. And the reason why is because they probably couldn't interest you too much if they put the truth out there, because you're not interested in seeing it. You rented the movie, or you went to the show and watched the movies, or however it is that you took it in. You did that most likely based on the action that is going to be in that film, the firefights or this or that, or some type of adrenaline rush is likely the reason you're watching that movie. And the fact of the matter is, in the reality, there's not so much adrenaline rush unless it really excites you to haul water a half a mile or whatever it is that you have to do in your particular situation. But you're going to be doing a hell of a lot more hauling water than what you are putting people in the crosshairs. That's a damn sure fact. Obtaining food. And I'm talking about beyond your stores. I'm talking about, actually doing what you should be focusing on doing, and that would be getting your food from anywhere other than your stockpile. Because every day of food you take from your stockpile is one less day of food you have. Again, so many ways that the TV, the big screen, is going to fail you. You don't go out and put out, and I'm not a hunter, I'm not a trapper, but I know for a fact that some cat like me, and I'm raising my hand, doesn't take and make a snare trap and go out there and within 15 minutes has himself a meal. Although you'll probably see something like that on the TV screen. That's typically not how it works. I am sure, over time, many of people have died of starvation because they couldn't get it right. I suspect many more will suffer the same fate. Why? Because they couldn't get it right. Or because maybe the woods was too hunted out or trapped out or whatever you would call it. So that's why it's important for me to come on and make jackass videos like that. Because somebody's got to wake folks up. A whole hell of a lot of people out there preparing for the firefight. Not a whole lot of people preparing on how to fix somebody up after the firefight. Not a whole lot of people out there discussing different ways you can avoid the firefight. Because that's just not sexy. I just want folks to be prepared. And I want folks to understand the reality of what we're looking at. Because I think folks are going to get really blindsided by a bunch of really common things that we're just not used to having to deal with in our life. Our lifestyles, I should say. Like taking a chance on the water because, well, you've been drinking the water out of there for the last couple of weeks, although you've been filtering it and boiling it and all that good stuff. You hadn't gotten sick, so you thought, yeah, I'm thirsty, I don't want to waste my time, so you take a couple of big old gulps, and next thing you know, in a couple of weeks, you're on your ass. there's a lot of things that should probably be emphasized a hell of a lot more than the plate carriers, the AR-15s, the tactical the tactical training, which, by the way, overblown as well. What do you mean overblown? I paid $1,000 to go learn how to pull a trigger. Oh, good. How much did Kyle Rittenhouse spend? See, you can argue a bunch of stuff. One thing of many things I learned, is that there are some people that are just naturally good at different things and some people that aren't. And usually people that aren't naturally good at one set of things are naturally good at another set of things. Well, guess what? Shooting is one of those things. Combat in itself is one of those things, right? If you're not somebody that can keep your head in the game, if you can't keep your head straight, you're probably not going to be real effective in combat. Likewise, there are a lot of people that can pick up a firearm and it seems like they're a natural. I was one of those people. Other people, you can hand them a firearm and you can work with them for days upon days upon days. And sure, they get better. They're not quite as bad, but they're definitely not somebody that you want to put up front on your fire team. It just is, it is what it is, right? We all got our strong points, our weaknesses. Kyle just happens to be somebody more towards the natural end of utilizing firearms, and utilized it very effectively. I think he did an incredible job, and I'm critiquing the work he did, and he did a very good job. Was he trained to death on it? Nope. He's just somebody that can keep his head in the game, A, and B, much more closer to the natural tendency side of being able to manage and fire a firearm. And like me, I didn't have tons of training. I don't have hundreds of thousands of rounds downrange. I never needed to. Are the sights accurate? Well, hand it to me. And I know that that's going to differ a little bit on each particular person, but you know what? I'm not a sniper. And I don't play one on YouTube. In fact, I'm not the combat guy. So there's that. Now, it's not because that I couldn't, it's because now I can't. I most certainly could have been the combat guy before COPD. But now that just takes you out of the fight. Just plain and simple takes you out of the fight. You still need to know how to fight. In fact, I would argue that you need even more to know how to fight. Just like I tell people that don't plan on bugging out that they need a bug out bag even more than somebody that does. That's logical. It's the same thing. Same thing. It's about how you look at it. Plain and simple. Some people might think, oh, well, now I've got COPD. That means I'm less capable, less lethal. Couldn't be any more further from the truth. You just have to become more lethal. Plain and simple. You just have to become more lethal. It is what it is. But, again, we go that direction of There's going to be a war on your step every day. No, there ain't. No, there ain't. And if there is, you should have moved long before shit hit the fan. So, plain and simple. That's why it's important that somebody comes out here and says, hey, I've read many books, and there's not any one in particular that stands out that just smacks me in the head and says, here, tell them about this book. I don't. I've read a ton, and it's been a fair amount of time ago, to be fair. And to be able to pick out one title, one author, and it was a lot of it wasn't like your Stephen Kings and your, it's not like that. A lot of these folks only wrote one book, and that was the book that I read. And it was just a lot of it was books, first-hand accounts on what it's like. Now, there are some minor adaptations that you have to make, given our culture, given our technology. But for the most part, it's still going to ring true. The important thing to remember about the technology thing is that's not a step forward. That is a whole shit ton of steps back. Folks just don't know it yet. But when that technology fails to technologic, yeah, there we go. I was trying to figure out how to make up a word. When that technology, when it stops technologing, then you're screwed. You're screwed. You better know the ways before that technology. A lot of it isn't sexy, fun stuff. It isn't about what you can add to the cart. It's about what you can add in your head. It's about what you can add in your skill sets. And these channels just do not focus on that enough. Many of them want you to keep adding to the cart. And what is increasingly frustrating is, because this stuff's not cheap, folks, I see lots of review videos for no-name battery boxes, solar generators, whatever you want to call them. You got prepping channels out there. Okay, now I will up front and say I cut Southern Prepper 1 slack on this, but he's the only one. You got prepper channels out there now trying to hawk off e-bikes on you. And I'm looking at it going, now remember, this is the cat right here that built a DIY e-bike. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. Got videos about bug out bikes and prepping and all that good stuff on it. That's not my point. My point is, and this is why Southern Prepper 1 catches a break on this, because Southern Prepper 1 actually rides those bikes. He actually tests them, puts time in them, gets to know them before he makes a video. Before he makes a video. He doesn't get the damn thing charged up, take one trip down his lane and back, and then fire up the old iPhone. Right? That's what some of these other channels are doing. How do you know that? Just take a look at the tires on the damn e-bike. Tell me that e-bike's been ridden even 1 mile. Go ahead. Take a look at the tires. These guys lie through their teeth all the time. All the time. It wouldn't be a big deal if they knew what they were talking about, but they don't. These items are a lot of money. You know, you're talking anywhere from $1,500 and on up when it's talking about e-bikes. You know, those battery boxes, solar generators, whatever you want to call them, you know, a lot of them that they have on their channels are $1,000 and upwards for those units. That's not, I mean, maybe I'm just poor and maybe I'm just dumb. But to me, $1,000 is a chunk of change. It's not something that you just pass by. And it just blows my mind. They'll come out, they'll make videos about units that has no history because they just came out, fly-by-night company. They don't know details like, oh, what's the maximum solar charge rate? How many watts can you push solar into the device? Because a lot of them don't cover that, and yet it's one of the most important things to know. A lot of them don't even know to look for it. And I'm like, but you're here influencing. That's the problem. You know, I just think it's smart when people stay in their lane, or if they're gonna reach out and do some of this stuff, don't bullshit people. Actually get some experience with the item. Get a little knowledge about the item. Know what you're talking about. Know what features are important to talk about and why. I'll say this. I'll be coming out with a series of videos here, and I don't know, sometime probably within the night. It'll be at least a month, maybe a little longer. And it'll be a bunch of, like, how-to videos on how to use a product and stuff like that. Of course, be a review video, all that stuff. And you'll see, as soon as they cut us loose to be able to share information, share video and pictures and all that good stuff, it's on. In fact, I was just talking to Jen. I'm going to have that stuff ready. I'm going to have the how-to videos. I'm going to have all that kind of stuff ready, and probably even have it uploaded, just setting, private or unlisted or what have you, until the day is that we're told that we can let that information out. And you're going to see what it means to put time in on something to truly understand the item or the product, and not just on a whim firing up a camera and saying, oh, well, you need to go out and spend $1,500 on this now. Not because I know it's a good item, but, well, because they sent me one for free, and, I've got an issue with that. There's certain YouTubers, when it comes to certain items, that I will specifically go to and watch. Why? Because they got kind of my attitude. Drones. If you want to know the skinny about a drone, you go find Dobo, original Dobo. You'll know whether or not that's going to be a good drone or not. As long as he's got a review video on it, he'll be straight with you. Channel that I like. I love the guy. The guy's a great guy. He's informative, stuff like that. But don't ever trust review stuff from him. Drone Volley. Great channel. That makes great content. But never finds a bad product, if you know what I mean. I think he'll put his stamp of approval on about anything. But he's informative. So if that's what you're looking for, if you're not really looking for should I or not, if you're just looking for informative, good channel, Drone Volley. Ken Heron is another good channel if you want to know the truth about a drone, whether it's good, whether it's junk. Ken Heron. So I mean, there are people that definitely know those particular fields. Look for that stuff. Don't just go by somebody that you like. I'm giving you. In fact, that brings something up. An honorable mention I need to make. There is a channel. Hang on, let me find his video. Let me pull that up, and I mean, I didn't even intend this. And this is like the perfect segue into it. It's kind of cool. I didn't even intend it, I promise. I ran into this channel earlier. They're sitting at 54 subscribers. I'm not quite sure how long he's been doing it. However, it was just a video that I watched a video, and on the right-hand side, it's got suggested videos. And I saw it there, and as you can see, I've only seen one of their videos. And it's titled Gods at War Part 1. And I don't know why, but I just felt that old tugging on me, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I like it. So if you want a channel that, well, from what I hear so far, he's on the target. I talked a lot about idolatry in Gods at War Part 1. Talked a lot about idolatry. And, I mean, he just really opened it up. Did a superb job. So, kudos to the gentleman for that. And I'm looking very forward to Part 2. So, anyway, Mission Point Church, Mansfield, Ohio is the channel. Mission Point Church, Mansfield, Ohio. And like I say, this I know this first part here was pretty incredible. So, I certainly enjoyed it. Let me think. If there's anything else. I do have several tabs open for you tonight. I'm sitting here yakking away tonight, and I actually do have stuff to tell you about. Last couple of nights have been a little bit slim on the news pickings, but it's picking up. What? No. Yeah, we got Dane.
What?
Dane. It's Danin. It's Danin. Danin. We're gonna die. Danin. Yeah. Oh, I thought you guys were still over there. I pushed you. You go. There. Sometimes you just got to get angry with it. No, this is what we're dealing with. We're right about there. So just off of that interstate right there. So just a bunch of rain. Nothing too freaky. Oh, that was the neighbors. The neighbors moved a trash can, and you could hear them kind of dunking the trash can. And I thought maybe another branch was getting ready to come down and say hi to us. So anyway, I got quite a few, like I say, 7 tabs open. And mostly to deal with the bullshit getting ready for war, because that's what it seems for certain is going on. Oh, by the way, I need to look over once in a while. Jen's good at letting me know if I need to pay attention to something, so I'm horrible at that, guys, just so you know. But the reason why is because if I pay very much attention to chat, I'm like a bad squirrel dude. So if I pay too much attention to chat, we'll never get anywhere because I'll just keep squirreling from one thing to another. I'm bad enough as it is. You quit slurping over there. Yeah, I just told all of YouTube's about your non-ladyhood. Alright. I'm gonna get huffed. I feel it. Okay. North Korea. Oh, you guys want to go along. Definitely you want to go along. North Korea issues nuclear warning. And, just like the other nuclear warning they issued. Well, they issued another one. Damn it. So pay attention. North Korea said that any attempt to force it to abandon its nuclear weapons would trigger a harsh response. In other words, they drew a line, and then the U.S. stepped over it. And so then they drew another line. So don't cross that line. And we stepped over it. And so this is the next line. He drew the next line. We're on the third line. So pretty much where we're at. Anyway. Let's see. Invoking a recently updated policy governing the use of atomic bombs in the event of a major threat. So it says, in comments carried by the state-run Korean Central News Agency on Wednesday, senior foreign ministry official Jo Chol-soo took aim at the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, who urged the international body to adopt a measure seeking to compel Pyongyang to get rid of its nuclear arms earlier this week. Forcing the DPRK to give up nuclear weapons is a declaration of war, he said, adding that any attempt to do so will be dealt with resolutely in accordance with the DPRK's Nuclear Forces Policy Act. Enacted last September, the law outlines 5 scenarios under which North Korea would employ the nuclear weapons, including an attack by a foreign power or when a catastrophic crisis threatens the existence of the state or the safety of the people. During a UN meeting on Monday, Thomas Greenfield said the U.S. and its allies must pursue the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of North Korea, echoing demands by several previous administrations. The DPRK maintains its weapons are for defensive purposes only and insists on its right to possess them, however repeatedly rejecting the American demands. Who are we? I don't get that. Why do they have to bow to us again? I don't get that. I don't. And I don't think much the world gets it anymore either. Insane. Here's the thing. Little Rocket Man. I need some backup though, please. That would be great if he'd do that song. Little Rocket Man, that would be awesome. How long has he had these weapons? How long have we known that he's had these weapons? Well, I mean, when I say we, I mean us. For a while now. Few years or something, at least. If he just wanted to nuke somebody, he'd have done it. He's had plenty of time. He's literally got hypersonic missile delivery systems. Like, North Korea is more advanced than the United States of America in the arms race. That's messed up. If he had intent on just reaching out and touching someone, he'd have done it already. So, this excuse has gotten old with me a long time ago. This whole, well, if they've got. No. These people just want to be left alone and to live with the culture that is theirs. That it's theirs. It's their land. It's their culture. As long as people aren't being tortured and horrible things done to them against their will, we have no right to intervene. Again, if innocent people are being harmed, if people are being held against their will, then yeah, helping out, is certainly a good thing to do. I don't know about you. Anytime the U.S. government's been there to help me, it's taken me a hell of a long time to bounce back. I'm sure it's even worse for another nation. It is what it is. This stuff don't freak me out. I don't sweat. I don't lose sleep at night because little rocket man's got rockets. I don't. Why? Because what little rocket man doesn't have is intent. And as long as he's not got intent, I ain't got no sweat. I think we're going to be learning about Iran's nuclear capabilities real quick. Blue quick. U.S. to build new military bases near South China Sea. The United States is set to build 4 new military bases scattered around the Philippines, the country's president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., has confirmed. He added that at least one facility would be placed near a disputed island chain claimed by China and several other nations. Speaking to reporters on Wednesday, the Philippine leader offered additional details about the new installations, which were first unveiled last month as part of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with Washington. However, he said he could not reveal their exact location until a formal announcement is made alongside the U.S. There are 4 extra sites scattered around the Philippines. There are some in the north, and there are some around Palawan, and there are some further south, he said, adding that the bases would help to defend the country's largest island, Luzon. Now, they had been talking about an expansion for quite some time. I'm not sure if this is the exact expansion that they were talking about or if this is something different. Palawan is one of the Philippines' westernmost regions and is situated around 200 miles east of the disputed Spratly Archipelago in the South China Sea, which is also known by several other local names. 6 countries have laid claim to parts of the small island chain, among them China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, as well as Philippines, though U.S. officials have repeatedly rejected Beijing's claims as unlawful. American bases on Luzon, meanwhile, are likely to be built with Taiwan in mind, given its close proximity to the self-governing island, which China considers part of its sovereign territory. Though Washington had long maintained a policy of strategic ambiguity toward Taipei, President Joe Biden had broken with that approach, explicitly stating that U.S. forces would come to Taiwan's defense in the event of a Chinese attack. Asked about the plans for the new bases during a Wednesday press briefing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin argued that military cooperation between countries should be conducive to regional peace and stability and not targeted at or harmful to the interest of any third party. The U.S. side, out of selfish interest, remains trapped in a zero-sum mentality and keeps increasing military deployment in the Asia-Pacific, he said, adding that regional countries need to remain vigilant and avoid being coerced or used by the U.S. President Marcos went on to warn of a complex and unpredictable security environment in the region, saying he was aware of an emerging threat that would require adjustments in our strategy without elaborating. So, They are certainly continuing to build. Coffee. And nicotine. All right. Pentagon begins redeployment to deter Russia and China, says Wall Street Journal. The U.S. will send decades-old A-10 attack planes to the Middle East, replacing more advanced aircraft currently stationed in the region, which it instead intends to deploy in Europe and the Pacific, the Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday. The redeployment, which is expected in April, will mean that the U.S. will reserve more sophisticated aircraft to counter perceived threats from Russia and China. The older The older A-10 planes, get your head out of your ass, Mike, are considered by the Pentagon as sufficient to protect U.S. interests in the Middle East. The imperative is to get the most suitable aircraft to the Pacific for higher threat challenges. The Wall Street Journal quoted retired U.S. Air Force Major General Larry Stutzriem as saying the U.S. and some of its allies have expressed concern at possible Chinese military expansionism in the Pacific region. Washington views China as a pacing threat per National Defense Review documents released by the Pentagon last year, effectively meaning that the U.S. sees the Asian nation as a rival to its interests and values, according to U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Russia was described in the same document as an acute threat. U.S. and Russian jet fighter aircraft regularly fly over Syria, with the Wall Street Journal citing U.S. officials calling the Russian units increasingly aggressive. I was trying to combine the words, I think. The redeployment scheme is part of a larger U.S. plan to retain a small but significant presence of naval and ground forces in the Middle East. Despite its military withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, American troops have maintained links with some Iraqi and Syrian partners in the region as it fends off challenges from Islamic State militants, killing around 700 last year alone, according to U.S. military data. A-10 attack planes, which are some 40 years old, are not considered to be sufficient to deal with China's advanced military technology, but retain utility against ground forces or militia groups in the Middle East, the Wall Street Journal reported. For a little bit, because I think you're going to see Russia and China start pumping their weapons into the Middle East. And I'm sure they'll pump in new enough weapons that an A-10 will no longer, no matter how much we love it, will no longer be effective. It's awesome aircraft. No, there's no arguing that. But there's also no arguing that it's outdated and incapable on the current battlefield. So on a modern battlefield, I should say. Basically sitting ducks is what they are. Great aircraft. I love them. Nothing will ever replace the great Bert. But it is what it is. All right. U.S. destroyer warned away in South China Sea, says Beijing. China claims it monitored and warned off a U.S. Navy destroyer after detecting it near the Paracel Islands in the South China Sea on Thursday. This comes as tensions between Beijing and Washington in the region continue to grow. The guided missile destroyer USS Milius illegally entered into Chinese territorial waters, Senior Colonel Tian Junli, a spokesman for the country's Navy Southern Theater Command, stated in a press release. The move has seriously jeopardized peace and stability in the South China Sea, the official added. The incident occurred near the Paracel Islands as sea and air forces tracked the U.S. destroyer in accordance with the law and warned it off. Tian said that the Navy was ready to take all necessary measures to safeguard national sovereignty, security, as well as peace and stability in the region. The United States has denied the claim that the USS Milius was driven away by China's warnings. The Navy's 7th Fleet spokesman, Lieutenant Junior Grade Luca Bacchic, told Associated Press on the same day that the warship was conducting routine operations in the South China Sea and was not expelled. He added that the U.S. would continue to fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows. The Paracel Islands are a disputed archipelago of the South China Sea, and then it goes back into what we covered earlier. So, and then finally, moving on to a different topic. No better, but hey, at least this train wreck isn't going to have all kinds of, stuff to poison the water and the soil and all that. It's just going to make sure that we can't afford the poison for the soil and the water. I know, not funny, but yet it is. U.S. economy heading for train wreck, a billionaire warns. I'm really concerned, by the way, about your billions. The U.S. economy is facing disaster following another interest rate increase by the Federal Reserve and the Treasury's rejection of full deposit insurance. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman has warned. I've got an investment. I've got a really good investment for you. Write that check, premium boy. When combined with the higher cost of debt and deposits due to the rising rates, consider what the impact will be on lending rates and our economy, Ackman wrote on Twitter on Wednesday. The longer this banking crisis is allowed to continue, the greater the damage to smaller banks and their ability to access low-cost capital, he added. The billionaire's warning follows the U.S. Central Bank's decision to raise rates by 25 basis points. On Wednesday, the Fed lifted its benchmark rate to a 4.75% to 5% range as it continues to combat inflation. Trust and confidence are earned over many years but can be wiped out in a few days. I fear we're heading for another train wreck. Hopefully, our regulators will get this right, he said. Ackman also slammed U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen for walking back plans to support depositors. Yellen, who previously made assuring comments about protecting regional banks, stated on Wednesday that she had not considered or discussed blanket insurance for U.S. banking deposits without the approval of Congress as a way of stemming the threat of further bank runs. The longer the uncertainty continues, the more permanent the damage is to the smaller banks and the more difficult it will be to bring their customers back, Ackman argued. Western governments and central banks have sought to prevent a cascade of bank failures after the sudden collapses earlier this month of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in the U.S. The turmoil has also hit troubled Swiss banking giant Credit Suisse, which has been acquired by its rival UBS in a government-brokered deal aimed at shoring up public confidence in the Western financial system and averting a global crisis. And the next one, we've got to win. We've got to win. Trans women banned from female athletic competitions. Not all, unfortunately, but at least here. Transgender people will no longer be able to compete in female sports competitions, the World Athletics Council has ruled. From April on, any athlete who had been through male puberty will not be allowed to compete in women's track and field events, regardless of their current hormonal levels. The council has agreed to exclude male or female transgender athletes who have been through male puberty from female world ranking competition from March 31st this year, and Sebastian Coe, the head of the organization, at a press conference on Thursday. He said the council held discussions with stakeholders, including 40 national federations, the International Olympic Committee, and trans groups about the topic of transgender athletes. The majority agreed that trans athletes should not compete in female events. Many believe there is insufficient evidence that trans women do not retain advantage over biological women and want more evidence that any physical advantages have been ameliorated, and I've never seen that word, so I probably said it wrong, before they are willing to consider, we have to know, that's it, we have to know, you have to know. How do you say it, Google? Let us know.
Ameliorate.
I couldn't hear that.
Ameliorate.
Ameliorate? Ameliorate? Is that right?
Ameliorate.
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 Ameliorate. Well, thank you very much for helping with that. Thank you. Anyway, they have to do that crap before they're willing to consider an option for inclusion to the female category, Coe said. We continue to take the view that we must maintain fairness for female athletes above all other considerations, he added. I would agree. Trans participation in female sports remains a contentious topic, not least of all because the performance by some trans athletes like U.S. swimmer Leah Thomas and New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard, who both excelled in their respective sports. Well, yeah. I mean, it's absurd. It really, truly is absurd. Copy. This is the last tab I have open, and we'll run through headlines, and I will be done for the week. Can't wait. Can't wait to relax a little bit. I don't know. I enjoy my days off. I still keep up on news just as much as any other day. But it's just nice to, I don't know, do whatever I want. What? Huh? Why? I'm checking my goods, man. I'm waiting to see it pop up at another location like any time now, so it was delayed. I was supposed to get it today, but then it was delayed, and still no update. Damn you, FedEx. Damn you. Still on schedule for tomorrow, though. Hasn't popped up anywhere in Illinois yet, so you better. Anyway, France protests said to be out of control. French authorities struggled on Thursday to suppress the protest against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform, if I can spit it out. Over 1 million demonstrators took to the streets across the country in what some security sources described as an insurrection against the government in Paris. Were they invited in too by the police? Because asking for a few hundred friends. Tens of thousands of workers went on strike, and protesters blocked public transportation, schools, and oil refineries. Attempting to break up the protests, police used tear gas, water cannons, flashbangs, and batons. Lions, tigers, oh my! Videos making rounds on social media showed people beating the hell out of... Oh, no, I'm sorry, I started making up. Making rounds on social media showed heavily armored officers clubbing unarmed demonstrators. Yeah, well, one side he beating the shit out of the other side, but it's the way it usually goes, ain't it? Let's see. Let's see a little bit of people beating on people. Why not? There you go. Yeah. Oh. Come on. Somebody take the beating. Take the beating. I'm not really laughing at the situation. This table is going to turn, ladies and gentlemen. And when it does, brace yourself. Because this table is going to turn. And it is going to be ugly. And it's going to happen in France, it's going to happen in the United States, it's going to happen everywhere. People will only allow themselves to be pushed so far. And then, when people that are doing things that they are in the right to do are treated like this, they come back with a vengeance. You wait and see what happens. It's going to happen internationally. I guarantee it. People are tired of it. They're tired of it. It's nothing but corruption from one end of the board to the other. Whether it's Hunter Biden and all the nonsense that he gets away with, whether it's the banks and what they're allowed to do, people are tired of it. These chickens will come home to roost here in the United States. Anyway, it goes on to say other videos showed barricades burning in the streets of Paris. The entrance to the city hall in Bordeaux, the regional capital of Nouvelle-Aquitaine, I'm not sure how to say that, was set ablaze at one point. At least one unit of firefighters switched sides and joined the protesters. Multiple eyewitnesses described the situation as out of control. It's wars in Paris, no time to post. Take care of yourself, tweeted one independent media outlet. That looks a little crazy. Definitely crazy. Almost 150 police officers and gendarmes. I don't know if I'm saying that word correctly. And for those that don't know, if I'm not mistaken on this, like the police officers are the unarmed police, the gendarmes, or however that's pronounced, are the ones that are armed. They're allowed to have firearms. Anyway, apparently they've been injured. Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said Thursday evening, calling this absolutely unacceptable and demanding harsh punishment for the attackers. Darmanin also told reporters that 172 people were detained for questioning about the looting and arson in Paris, and that 190 fires had been set in the French capital, 50 of which were still burning as of 10 p.m. local time. The Interior Minister blamed the extreme left and Black Bloc anarchists for the worst of the violence. The police estimated more than 1 million protesters were in the streets. The outpouring of popular discontent was triggered by President Macron's announcement that the retirement age will be raised from 62 to 64 starting next year. Macron insisted that the change was necessary, otherwise the pension system would go bankrupt within the next several years. The Elysee Palace imposed the change without consulting lawmakers, who have been trying to deal with the controversial proposal since January. Protesters responded by calling on Macron to resign. Appearing on TV on Wednesday, Macron said his only mistake was failing to convince people of the decision's merits, but insisted he would not back down, even if that meant having to shoulder unpopularity. While there is a constitutionally protected right to protest, Macron said, if the malcontents use violence, then that is no longer democracy. Wait a minute here. You made up the peaceful protest game. We don't have to play your damn game or your rules. Just so you know. Though heavily criticized due to the harsh coronavirus lockdowns and mandates, Macron easily won re-election in 2022, eventually defeating Marine Le Pen by a 17-point margin. The runoff election saw the lowest turnout since 1969. It's all out of control, everywhere. And it's going to continue to get worse. It's what it is. Not here trying to fearmonger anything. It is what it is. I don't see it as an overnight fall. You know, you're not going to have to don your body armor minute one and never take it off for 10 years. Our entertainment really does a good job of propagandizing a hell of a lot. It really does. And indoctrinating, and it really does. All right. Let's read some headlines. And I would run out tonight and flail my arms and scream the end is nigh, but it's raining and stuff, so I'll take a rain check on that. Let's see. I covered that and that. Russia and China sign long-term nuclear deal. Germans warned of more inflation. Biden making enormous mistake on China, says former U.S. Secretary of State. Russia lifts veil on gold holdings. Bloc's members must arm Ukraine for long term, says NATO. Russia launches military satellite. Russian inflation drops below 6%. Imagine that. U.S. considering special envoy for Russia's main ally, says Blinken. EU state president warned about Western split. Or concerned about Western split. I think I said warned. Sorry. NATO member admits it has exhausted all means of arming Ukraine. Russian aces who chased U.S. Air Force drone awarded. And I still owe that pilot a beer, so if you ever, sneak into the country. Now I'm going to have the Homeland Security at my door. You would buy him a beer? Damn Skippy, I'd buy him a beer. That was some damn good flying. Russia warns of future global oil shortage. IOC cannot be political referee, says president. Eurozone can't recover wealth lost to energy crisis, says Lagarde. Ex-Russian president touts defense industry capacity. Pentagon starts redeployment to deter Russia and China, says Wall Street Journal. I covered that one. DeSantis clarifies stance on Ukraine. U.S. uneasy about China's peace plan for Ukraine, says media. Bitcoin has no future, says a Russian finance official. Armenian, I'll get it right, PM vows peace with Azerbaijan. Russian governor's son flees house arrest in Italy, says media. Ukraine welcomes ICC office. U.S. economy, I covered that one. Most wanted crypto fugitive arrested, says minister. Ukrainian special forces get targets from CIA satellite, says the Times. France rocked by nationwide strikes over pension reform. EU country says it won't arrest Putin. Wagner boss dismisses Bloomberg claim about his company. World Athletics lifts Russia doping ban. France protests said... I covered that one. Notorious Australian neo-Nazi joins Ukrainian army, says media. And lastly, Swiss-made armor appears in Ukraine. And there we go. that is the week. Fun times. Just keep doing it, folks. Keep stacking that food. Keep stacking those supplies. Keep doing it. None of us can say when or how, but I'm pretty certain we all know it's coming. I don't think it's really far on the horizon. I don't think it's going to be a major, like an overnight thing. I think it's going to be a gradual slide as we've been sliding. I think it's going to continue to be a gradual slide. I think it will pick up speed. I do think we will hit some nasty bumps. But, there's a whole lot of fear-mongering going on out there. And while we need to be concerned, while we need to be prepared, we also need to understand that it is imperative that we make the right decisions, that we're doing the right things. Take extra moments out and just make sure that you are. There's nothing wrong at taking a look at, say, one of your areas of preps and saying, you know what, I'm really not comfortable with the direction I went with that. It's okay. It's okay to back up and go a different direction with it. That's fine. It is about what you're going to be comfortable with working with, how you're going to feel comfortable operating. That is a major important part of the equation. So, that'd be like going to the front line with your least favorite firearm. Probably not a smart idea. Anyway, I am going to get the hell out of here. God willing, I'll be back Sunday. We'll do it again. And, I hope we don't get struck by lightning or smacked by a tornado. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get that bad. It's just going to be monsoon season for the next day and a half. So, anyway, I'm out of here before the power god, little g, decides to go tink, because my computer is stay up, but the modem won't, yo. Anyway, I will talk to you all on Sunday. Hope you all have a good weekend. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.